Welcome to another episode of Wisdom of the Modern Crone. And today I'm going to be interviewing a very dear friend and colleague of mine, Linda Crider. I've had her on my Rebel Crone channel before, and we've talked about various interesting things like plant medicine, and I consider her a real plant whisperer. I mean, she's amazing in this area. So we've talked about all kinds of different things, but today we are going to be talking about Linda. This is her time to shine, and I feel like of all the modern crones I know that Linda really epitomizes this in a beautiful, beautiful way. Now, to give you a little background, Linda is a wife, a mother. I don't know if you're a sister. I don't know if you have any siblings, but we'll get to that in a minute. But she's also been an educator for a very long time, and she is a writer and the host of Medicine Woman's Corner, which is a beautiful, I should say, a platform and a website where she goes into plant medicine and she helps to make it very easy to understand. At least that's what I feel, Lindy. You make it very easy to understand our natural interface with the plant world, which it should be natural, right?
Right.
Anyway, so welcome, Linda. It's good to have you. What also I want to add just quickly is Linda and I spent, it's been about a year now, but we did
Yes.
a whole year apprenticeship with a mystic mentor of ours, Elizabeth Seraphine, and the Priestess Path Lineages of Light. And it was a beautiful year of 5 of us just deep diving into our personal medicine. And many gifts came out of it. For me, the Rebel Crone came out of it. Linda, she can talk a little bit about all the beautiful stuff that happened for her from this experience. So we know each other quite well. It's not always the case with people I interview. Enough of me talking. Linda, welcome to Wisdom of the Modern Crone. Thank you for being here with me today and sharing yourself with everybody.
Thank you for having me, and hello to everybody.
Hey, well, let's get started. I'm going to start with the question that I like to begin all these interviews with, because no matter you know it or not, I consider you a rebel. And a rebel for me is anybody that is chooses to go against as establishment in a way of what's established as a path for a woman to take, and that really felt like, maybe I don't just fit in, maybe this doesn't just work for me, and I'm going to try to find something else to be in integrity and honest with who I am. So, Linda, when did you first know that you were a rebel?
Well, actually, I think I'm more of a rebel now than I ever was, which is kind of interesting. I come from a background that is very old world and very traditional. So, as a young girl, I pretty much fit the mold the way I was supposed to. I did what I was expected to do. I was a good girl. I just kind of towed the line and followed the path that I was supposed to follow. But as I got older, especially like in the last, say, maybe 10 years, I started to realize that, maybe I don't need to be such a people pleaser. Maybe I need to be a me pleaser. So I kind of came into my own that way, and I am now very happy with who I am, and this is who I am, and good. So that,
I love that, Lenny, because what you're saying here is something that I've witnessed in my life and with the other women with my friends and the other women I've been interviewing, is that there's something really magical that happens for a woman when she comes up to her change in life. And I don't want to keep using the word menopause, but that's what people recognize it as, because I don't like that word. It's a word that was given to us by men in the
right.
medical profession, but it's really a time of big change and transition and upgrade for a woman. And it's the time, right, when our hormonal patterns dramatically change. So all the things that were driving us throughout our life, that is really physiologically driven. I find like that for me just has that settled down, that what came up instead was just this new, like, being able to get in touch with who I really am. And it's very profound. It's a
Yeah.
profound experience. I want you to go into that a little bit more, but I want to set the stage of what we're going to be talking about here for women that are not there yet or coming upon that time, or the men that have women in their lives, that are going to be in that time of transition of what to expect with it. But what you're saying is that is when really the rebel spirit came out in you, where,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, for sure. That was when I gave myself permission to be that person who I know was inside and not just what everyone else expected me to be. So, and that has grown, that has grown over the last, like I said, 10 years and a lot more over the last year or so since we did the year-long program that you mentioned earlier, where we really came into our own spiritually. So there was that side that came out. And I think that had a lot to do with it too. So it's been a process. It's been a journey, and I guess I've always felt the same. It's like you can't hold on to time, time passes, but as I've gotten older, it's just I don't even think I don't think old. I just think I'm just me, and I'm loving it. It's great.
I know, isn't that so? It's like one of the gifts and the challenges, though, right, of getting older, is that we're still like, I still feel, I don't know what age inside, but it's probably like, I don't know if it's like late teens, 20s. I just feel like this youthful spirit in me. And
Mm.
and the only thing that betrays it is sometimes walking in front of the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, who is that old lady that just looked back at me
Yes.
here? I see pictures like, believe me, I use soft light in my office here. Um,
Mhm.
but then it's like, oh my gosh, I am 64 years old. I go, there she is. But otherwise, I just feel inside of me the eternalness of who I am.
Yes. Yes.
And part of that, I'm glad you mentioned that about, because I feel like in like purpose is one of the main things in aging, is that we really come into like true purpose. And for me, true purpose can only be found with the connection to who we truly are, the immortal
Right.
within, the
Right.
divine self, the eternal self. And
Right.
that's where, I feel like as we get older, we gravitate more towards that, or we're capable of. And we feel the push to gravitate more towards figuring out who we really are. And that
Right.
has to be with the divine aspect of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a little story that I'd like to share that has always stuck with me, and it was told by Wayne Dyer. And for anyone who may not be familiar, Wayne Dyer, he's passed on now, but he was a motivational speaker in, I guess, the 80s and 90s, and very, very into spiritual matters, and he really focused on that. And he told a story about how when he was in his late 60s, he and his wife were on an outing, and he had to get from point A to point B quickly. And as a young man, he used to be a distance runner and a sprinter. So he just took off running and jumped over fences and got to where he was going. And when his wife caught up to him, she said, "What were you thinking? You're 68 years old. You can't do this sort of thing anymore." And he just sort of looked at her and said, "I forgot." And I believe that the purpose of that story wasn't to encourage people to do things that are physically harmful to them at a certain age. It was more like was so connected to that inner being that you just spoke about, to that part of him that just was going to go on forever. And that's what kind of took over. So that always stuck with me. And I heard this, of course, decades ago. And it's always something that has stayed with me, and certainly developing our spiritual side and really working with that as we have done over the last year or two. It has really come home that that's what's really keeping you youthful keeping you on point, keeping you in your purpose, helping you to move forward with that purpose. So that little thing has always just stuck with me, and I think it's really important to remember that. And that kind of emphasizes what you were just saying earlier about our spiritual side and developing
I
that.
love that. It's a perfect story. So, Linda, do you have any like specific ways in your life right now that helps you to align? Because I know we're like all human here. We have human, immortal, we do the dance between the two. So
Mhm.
sometimes we forget about this other side.
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes when I'm at the height of I'm so on it, and then the next minute I'm in this path of just being very in my immortal or my mortal cocoon. So
Yes.
can you
Yes.
share with us any ways that you have found that helps you to nurture and maintain that connection?
Well, not to belabor the point, but certainly working with plant medicine has helped a lot because they can do so much to kind of boost you up, to support you, and they're allies that you can call on at any time, not just emotionally, but physically as well, because flower essences will help to just sort of bring you out of that mode if you're just in a downward spiral. Like earlier in the week, I woke up in the morning and I was just feeling just blah, that feeling where you're just things aren't right, something's off, something's wrong. And so I went to some of my flower essences, and they just gave me that extra little, like a just a switch in perspective, just a kind of a change of attitude. So I have found that personally, that's something that has helped me a lot. And
I
I
mean, there's
have shared that with friends of mine too.
I love that because there's so often it's nothing against um somebody how much they've progressed in their life or their spiritual
Mhm.
advancement that they need some help, because we have so much that is, I think, stacked against us in the physical world. So, we know that there's toxic anti-health things at all levels,
Mhm.
comes in through advertising, through entertainment, through food, through water, through the air. I mean, there's so many things that are stacked against us that there's nothing wrong with stacking the other side to help us, counterbalance that. And I think
Mhm.
flower essences are just
Yeah.
incredibly powerful, man. I discovered recently the power of them with my kitty cats,
Yes.
the felines. I had a cat that suddenly one of my babies has gone and went into like severe asthma attacks. I mean, she always had a few little ones over the years, but it just went really bad. And I got these flower essences from this really wonderful privately owned pet store in
Mhm.
town. And she had to put them on little drops and they rub them on the insides of her ears like that. I'm
That's
telling
the
you,
way to do
within
it.
30
Yeah.
seconds, in 30 seconds, the asthma thing stops and she's just fine.
Right.
She's fine.
It's amazing. It's so simple, but so amazing that it just raises your vibration. And animals, of course, are the best way to test that because they don't have any preconceived ideas. There's not a placebo involved there. They don't know what you're doing. And if it's a cat, it's always a challenge just to get them into them to begin with. So once you do, you see the results almost right away.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
other cat would, this isn't supposed to be about animals. I'm kind of taking it over here a little, but
I
I'm so
know.
excited about this plant stuff. My other cat has had like chronic issues for so many years. And so I've been putting some drops in his food and he will take it in the food. My other cats won't because I don't
Mhm.
know, they figure I put something in, but he doesn't. And
Right.
that's working beautifully. I love that. But
Mhm.
okay, Linda, for this next part, I want to back up just a little bit to talk about that time of transition. Where all of a sudden you start like, maybe I don't need to be pleasing other people, and maybe I should start focusing on pleasing myself.
Mhm.
And when you started dawning on you, can we just talk a little honestly about that process? Did you experience like what emotions came through? Was there some sadness, some anger, some like how was that process? I mean, I very specifically for me, I got really angry about a lot of stuff, not outwardly focused, but just like, oh my God, what have I been doing my whole life about, in my sexuality and in my relationships and in my all this stuff as far as being outward focused. What was it like for you when you started to notice this and you started moving into a different way of being?
Probably, I guess the emotion that would have come up or did come up was feeling guilty. It's like, well, I'm not, again, I'm not going to be this person that does everything everybody else wants me to do. But I was that for so long that I felt like, well, not only was I surprising myself, but I was surprising other people. It's just like, whoa, wait a minute, who are
Richie,
you? I thought you were this. And it's just, well, not really. I was just being that because that's what you thought I was supposed to be, but no. So it was more like a feeling of I'm disappointing people. So maybe guilt is the wrong word, but just feeling guilty that I was disappointing people. I know that years back, and this would have been earlier when I was in my 40s, and I left my first marriage. That took an immense amount of courage and an immense amount of just, okay, I have to do this. It wasn't easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done and the most challenging thing I've ever done. But I did it and I knew I had to. But at the same time, a lot of people were disappointed. A lot of people were feeling like, well, I've kind of stepped down from the role that I was supposed to be doing. I keep using that word supposed to, supposed to, supposed to. And it was, I guess at that point, maybe backtracking here, it really went back to then. That's kind of when that change really occurred and that shift really happened. And it was just something I felt like I had to do for me,
you
not
reached
for
a
everybody.
critical point, right? You
Yes,
reached a critical, it was like a crisis. I mean, you're in a bad marriage. All of us women know you're in a bad marriage. That's can come to a crisis point, of do I, because you're in a way, you're like killing yourself. You're kind of snuffing yourself out slowly by being in something that doesn't work. And then someday it's like, okay, you come, at least in my own experience, you come to a critical point of either I save myself
yes.
or
Yeah.
I'm gonna be going downhill if I stay in this
Right.
situation.
And
How
that
old were you, Linda, when you left your marriage?
40.
40. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the
Yeah.
first sign. I feel like that's when it starts really feathering in is the change in life. It's usually hits women,
Yes.
hormonally the changes start usually in the let's say late 30s, but I think more in our early 40s and then
Hmm.
just then what should I say, escalating from then on. What happened in the later times when you were a wife and mother, which you are right now, with the last say 10 years or so, when you've gone through some big shifts, how has your current family, your your husband and your children really how did they respond to the big awakening now with coming into your own, the things that I've witnessed of you stepping up and just changing? I mean, we're never too old to change, right?
No.
And it's how'd your family respond to these more recent changes?
I think that I like to think that I'm setting an example for them. I have two daughters, and they are now in their 40s, both of them. So I feel like I'm setting an example. I'm not turning into this, um, well, I hate to use the word old because I don't like that word, but turning into this old lady who's just kind of expecting things to happen and people to do things for her and everything. And now I'm because I've come into my own and I'm doing the things that I want to be doing. I think that I'd like to think they're proud of me. I would like to think that they're looking to me as, well, this is what I want to be when I am her age. They haven't actually said that to me, but I get the feeling that that's what's going on here.
Well,
So,
spoken or not spoken, you're
mm,
setting an example. Sometimes within our families, we don't usually get the verbal feedback that we would really love, but because that's a very specific skill,
mhm,
but you know that they're seeing this. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about you so much and why you're so dear to my heart is that example of coming into your 60s, 70s, that of being changing. You know, one of the kind of like mind expanders for me was a couple years ago when I started the Rebel Crone, and I went ahead and I interviewed all kinds of my friends here in Santa Fe, which my friends are all crones. You know, they're beautiful older women that I feel
mhm,
are very wise and together. I mean, they're just cool people. And come to find out that I'm like the youngest of them all. I never thought about that, but I'm, you know, the early 60 crone. They're
mhm,
more pushing up against 70 or just in their early 70s. And every single one of them said it just keeps getting better. And for me, that was one of those moments of expansion of my own consciousness where I had, unbeknownst to me, sort of lumped like, all right, now I'm over 60 and this is I don't know. I just didn't like put it together that I'm changing a lot now, but maybe I thought it leveled off or something, but it doesn't. I mean, it's just like in any age that we are growing, expanding, you know, beings in immortals in this visible experience, and we just have the choice. And if we choose to, we can keep growing and expanding into who we really are. And so I think that's beautiful. And I think that's one of the main messages that we really need to get across to the youth and to our peers that nothing's ever set in stone. You know, it's
no,
not like, oh, I have to live with my choices. This is what I made. I made my bed. Now I got to lay in it. And no, you can change, you can grow, you can expand. I'm not saying you have to change, you know, leave your relationships or ditch your kids whatever, but you can change inside of you and you can keep growing and being vibrant.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
And you've
absolutely.
demonstrated that, you know, Linda, she has always been a woman that's worked with herbs and plant essences and flower essences. And then this whole turn of becoming, I say, the plant whisperer and this direct shamanic, you know, priestess interaction with plants to really communicate with them. I mean, this isn't just a woo-woo thing. This is actual
No,
this is a reality. You know, plants, the sensitive people will know that are listening will understand what I'm saying. People that aren't connected in that way might just have to trust that this is real. But plants do have a spirit, they do have an energy. They're a living
yes,
thing on this planet.
yes.
Uh,
And they are our elders. You know, they sit with us in this, those of us who are in our wisdom years, sitting in this circle, men and women, they are sharing that with the plant world because they have stepped up to being our teachers, our guides, our elders, and they've been around for a lot longer than we have, evolution wise. And I recently discovered that 80% of the life forms on the earth are plants. So there's more of them than there are of us, and they've been here longer than we have. So they have a lot of wisdom to share. So
Yeah, I was just thinking when you were saying that just about lineage, you know, and we have our human lineage of wisdom, but it's a more complex, it's of a different nature, and I think more complex than the plant world, where that like each plant is the living embodiment of a lineage because it's encoded so strongly, right, in
right.
what they
Yeah.
are. So it's like it's such a I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly. Do you understand what I'm trying to point at? Is just that is lineage. Every plant has been, you know, is
Yes.
directly connected to that.
Yeah, they do, and they do have spirits, and those spirits do have lineages, and they have personalities just like people do, and certain ones do certain things, and the more I get to know them, the more I get to learn about them, and to delve deeper into this whole movement, for lack of a better word, of plant communication and reciprocity and joining with them and learning from them. The more I do that, the more I have a great deal of respect for them as my elders, my teachers, my guides, and it's fascinating, really.
When we were talking just now, Linda, what the impression that came to me is one of the gifts of aging that I haven't articulated in my own consciousness before, but that is where I feel like for me, it's like the walls of separation, like egoic separation that we have with the world and with others, besides not the people pleasing enmeshment kind of false sort of stuff, but um, the real fluidity of everything. I mean, we all come from one source, but I feel like as I've gotten older, I'm more in contact with that. I guess less ego driven, and just because of that I can really experience, like, other people in a different way, and I can experience the things around me and our mother Gaia in a very different way, and animals and plants, and I don't know, I just feel so much more connected to everything as I get older.
No, that's the whole idea, is to foster that connection, to to keep it going, to enhance it, to do whatever you can to keep it in mind, to that we are in fact connected. It's not just here in our little lives doing our little thing, and then we go to nature to become renewed. And we do. I mean, that's great. You go to nature when you can, and nature can be in the form of your backyard garden or a forest or a park or sitting on your balcony surrounded by potted plants. Whatever that is, we go to nature to become renewed. But what is really happening now isn't this, they're here and we're here. It's this. It's this. It's like we are connected. And the more you study this and the more you work with the plant world, you feel this. And it's such a change, and a positive change, in that you you're one with the universe. You're one with nature. And of course the end game would be, the more we feel connected to each other as well as the plant world, the better human we're going to be, or the better version of human we're going to be.
Because you're going to
And
be the more aware human.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly the first step, is to be more aware, and then to become more connected. And I think that's the role that they're playing in the current world that we live in now, that's changing and growing and sometimes feels chaotic and sometimes feels uncertain. They have stepped up to help us to kind of cope with this and to become better stewards of the earth.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I had Linda do a reading for me a while back about, I'm on a beautiful property that was, built and landscaped like back in the 70s. So I have some beautiful old growth fir trees and pines around. And a few of them were really were struggling. And so I had Linda do a plant journey to connect with them and to talk with them and see what they had to say, like what could be helpful. And it came back like such a surprise to me. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but I thought it wasn't what came back. And what came back was they wanted more of me. So mentioned reciprocity. This whole thing we're used to going to nature and taking from nature, which nature does, is going to give and help balance you and balance your energy. Same with our pets. But there's a point where it comes like, oh, they need something from us in return. So my trees were asking for more time with me, more energy, more love, more connection. So I even just sometimes when I'm going to bed, I just think of them and they're outside my bedroom window and I just commune with them and wrap my energy around them. And when I'm out in the yard, I sometimes just go and sit by them or hug them and just talk to them and just, because they were in a way felt like they were starving for that interaction. And for my love as well, as opposed to me wanting that balancing energy from a tree, they want something from me in return. And that was really helped open my mind and my heart up to a more fuller way of having reciprocity with nature.
Yes, and that certainly does help as you get older and as you journey on to whatever through whatever purpose you have set for yourself. It's nice to know that you've got that those allies out there who can help you along the way. So
Yeah.
I think that has made a big difference to me, just having that sense of purpose and knowing that they're helping me to move along with that. It's just, and I think that's really a key, again, to staying youthful and being grateful to be in this at this age is just knowing that, just
Well, you're
feeling.
open, you're not being closed off, and so
Right.
you're not shutting down, which I think a lot of people do with age is they just shut down because there's this preconceived notion that I've lived my life, I've done my thing, and now I'm just gonna coast out. And that's what the world's telling us, right?
Mhm.
Is just coast out, you're on your way out. It's like, no, I'm in the game. I'm still very vital. In fact, I'm even more vital than what I was in my youth. And a different way, but maybe in a more balanced, powerful kind of
Mhm.
way. So I think that's really important that not to get sealed off as we get older, sealed off from just our being strident about things and having prejudices and our beliefs and just like I know this is the world and it's just like this. It's like no, you don't know the world. There's so
No.
much. We're never going to know the world. We're never going to understand fully life and all of that. Now, even when we transcend to the next realm, it's always growing and expanding. And I think that's one of the beauty things that you represent is just that willingness to just open yourself back up. And you've had a life, a career, all these things, yet there is something more.
Yes. Yes.
There's something else, but you have to be open to that.
Yes. And it's also nice. I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day about this. It's also nice to have those days when you wake up and you think, I really don't want to do anything today. And to know that you have the freedom to not. It's like, okay, today I'm just going to be. And whereas in the past, when you were working and doing this and that, there's just like, oh, I have to be here. I have to do this. I have to do that. I don't have to do anything this morning. All right. And that is wonderful. Not that you would do it all the time, but just knowing that you can is just such a liberating place to be that I think that's probably connecting to what you said earlier about how, it gets better. You always have that. You always have that option to just.
It's interesting because this is probably one of the main areas I still, I'm not struggling with it, but I still work with of that feeling of having to do stuff or having to accomplish things. It's like we're like the human doing machine where I've got to do because I still have things I'm accomplishing. I'm
Mhm,
launching this new podcast, Wisdom of the Rebel of the Modern Crone. I have the Rebel Crone. I'm just finishing up my second novel. I have all kinds of things that I still am accomplishing and
mhm,
doing. And so there's a part of me that gets up in the morning that okay, my day, what am I going to accomplish today? What's on my schedule? What's on my and I'm tired of that. And I do give myself permission to sleep in if I need to take
mhm.
naps, to not work, to just go hike or play or explore. But it's always kind of there. There's that deep programming that
Yes.
the world is constantly putting upon us. And for me, it's still there. Even in these years, I'm still having to like, okay, no, it's all right, Elisa, you're tired. Have downtime. Now it's at the end of the day. So end of the day for me is like maybe 3, 4 o'clock. I've done what I sometimes earlier. I'm done then for the day. And I go for my walk, or I take a nice nurturing bath, and make a beautiful dinner. So, and I know I've done my creative output. But it's still a choice that I have to make, and it's still something that I feel pressing in for me in the world. And I have to just constantly, no, 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 it's okay. Tell myself, it's okay.
Mhm. Oh, I still have that too.
Yeah.
I've always been one of those, got to do this, said I was going to do this, so I'm going to do it. I don't really want to do it, but I'm going to do it. But then I guess my point is that there's always the option that you don't have to. You're choosing to, so you can make more choices based on what you want
Yeah.
rather than what you've grown to be expected to do.
Exactly. All those expectations
Yes, yes.
that we accepted, that the world's saying about being a good girl, being
Mhm.
and in our feminine nature, that's what we respond to, because we do want things to, we want people to be happy. We
Mhm.
want to smooth things over. We want harmony. We want
Mhm.
all these different things as part of the feminine part of us, but it doesn't mean sacrificing ourselves for that end.
Right. So it's a balance,
There's a
and you just
balance.
create that balance. And I'm 10 years older than you, so I've had more time getting used to that option. Okay. So, and we all come to different points at different stages, but I think the older that you get, the more you realize that there are moments that you have to just give to yourself and just give
Yeah,
into,
it's
that
our
space.
energy is different, right, Linda? Don't you
Mhm.
find like I don't have the type of energy that I had when I was younger. So I have to use it more wise and more covetous of
Right.
my energies. Like I have so much creative energy today to do stuff. It's more focused, and I feel like it's more powerful, but it's like more limited in a way. I hate
Yeah.
putting limitations on, but you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
just
Yes.
yeah, I'm more covetous about where I'm going to put my attention, how I'm going to use my energy, because I'm appreciative of it in a different way than when you have it when you're young. You just, you
You
want to
go,
stay
go,
up
go,
late and
go,
go do
go.
something, you go, 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 and you get up the next day and you can go again. It's like, I don't get up and go like that anymore.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so you just have to be mindful of that and just use your time wisely. And when your little inner being says, okay, I think you need to kick back a little bit, then you kick back a little bit or a lot,
I
whatever
love
you need
that.
to do.
Yeah, it's about authenticity, right? I think we
Yes,
could probably wrap the conversation up with with a little topic here just on being authentic. And authenticity for me right now is different than being authentic a couple of years ago, because I've changed, right?
yes.
Sometimes it's different from, the beginning of the day to the end of the day. But don't you find
Mm.
like that what I'm hearing you saying is just that authenticity of listening to what you need on all the levels, physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Exactly. Just being the you that has always been there, that you're now maybe showing more to the world, or in my case, I know I am, and just saying, this is me.
Yeah.
This is me. And I think it made a little bit of a difference too. I know Elisa helped me with this. I made the decision to keep just let the silver grow in, and that makes me feel more authentic as well. I didn't think I would, but I was ready, and my dear friend Elisa was there to kind of give me a little bit of encouragement, and that I think has really helped to make me feel physically more authentic as well as emotionally and spiritually, and on all those different levels. So it's um it's a good place to be. I feel like I'm in a good place. It's not always hooray, everything's great. There always are moments we're human, and that's going to happen. But I, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't want to go back. I just want to keep thinking about moving forward and how I'm going to take this further. And it's a one day at a time thing too. You never know. The world is changing. Things happen. Life can turn on a dime. But as far as, living in the moment, I'm all good with it.
I love it, Linda. Thank you so much for sharing yourself, for sharing your wisdom, to being very honest and open. I'm sure there's a lot more stories in there, and maybe we'll pick up on those another day as we go into maybe some more specific topics. Right now, with the Wisdom of the Modern Crone, I'm doing more general interviews, but in time, I want to start kind of diving into very specific issues. And so I'd love to have you come back and maybe be on one of the panels of women so we can talk about, like I say, like some specific areas. But just know how much I appreciate you and how much I honor and respect you for just being you. And I love you dearly.
Right back at ya. And thank you
Yay.
so much for having me, and I would love to do this again.
Oh, well, absolutely. You can count on that. Thank you, Linda. And everybody, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to share in the links in the comment section how you can also check in on Linda and the things that she's providing. Maybe link to some of your articles and also to your website if you're interested in plant medicine, and you can find out what she's up to. And if there's any classes or anything available that you can share with people, you'll be able to find that on her website. So, as always, everybody, thank you so much for being with us. And remember, peace always comes from within. Have a great day.